you always have to be arguing with people. Go and buy the stuff fresh, make it fresh, put it in the refrigerator, and use it out in a week, and then make another set.
And another thing is that it is so easy for people to make their own yogurt, but they prefer to buy it in the prepackaged container.
You mean they prefer to buy something that somebody says is yogurt?
Yogurt.
When you buy yogurt in the store with all the sugar and old milk and all kind of things in it, it don't taste the same. It don't taste the same, and it don't have the same effect, right? If you, let's say for instance, you have that milk, sour milk that is sell in the Indian shop. What is it called?
Dahi.
Dahi. Right. Let's say for instance, you went home. You're intolerant to milk. Okay? So what you do is you go and you blend the coconut up and you squeeze it out. And you have it on the counter. And you take a little quarter teaspoon of the dahi and drop it in it and stir it up. And you put a muslin cloth on it and you leave it overnight. You know when you cup next morning, that is high quality yogurt you have there.
Yeah.
The whole top just be like a jello. And if you do so, you take that out and you put it in a cup and you put it in the fridge. You could eat it just like that, nice and sweet. But if you want, you could take a teaspoon of honey and put in your little cup and put your little fruits and thing with it. And you have one hell of a yogurt there that has no side effects from milk, Right. If you want to make it from milk, the best way to make it from milk is to go and get somebody that have a cow, that milking the cow or the goat, and take the live milk or the live goat milk and put your dahi in it and leave it overnight, and when you get next morning you have pure yogurt from fresh milk. So all the nutrients, all the enzymes and everything still in the milk. You see, long ago that is what we used to do.
That's why the old folks used to live as long as they did.
So I have a book there and it says Pasteur decided that he had to protect milk. So he says, take your milk, get a little thermometer, a little readout, and you put it on the fire and you stick the thermometer in it and you raise it to 135 degrees. Once you get 135 degrees, you put your finger in it, you could have a pretty good idea what 135 degrees is. It's just warm, Right. You warm it to that, and then you put it on a very low fire and you keep it there. You keep it there for 20 minutes. And then you take it off and you use it. The reason for keeping it at 135 degrees and not go above is so that you don't kill the enzymes in the milk. When you kill the enzymes in the milk, you've killed the milk. Much less for the stuff that you have that they blow in through a high amperage vacuum process where all the calcium in the milk is stay on the walls of the thing. Right. And then there's add calcium oxide and tell you it have calcium in it, which is not the same. Right? So all the time we get gypped. And unless you have a technical understanding of what is happening, you don't understand it. That is not milk that you're drinking there. It doesn't have any enzymes, so what you have is lactose intolerance. You're intolerant to the lactose in the milk. But if you had a cow and you went and you drank the milk from the cow fresh, the chances are you'd have no lactose intolerance, because when God make milk to feed a calf, He also make it with the enzymes to break it down. When you kill that enzyme and you drink it, the body have to find its own enzymes to help break that down.
I know there's a movement now where they tell you that you have to, it's better to use the raw milk.
That's what I'm saying. Fresh,
unprocessed.
raw milk, unprocessed. Right? Your cow is healthy, this is it. In fact, there's a big contention going on in the States with farmers who want to sell raw milk. And they say, no, you just put them in jail and all kinds of things like that. You go to France, and you go to England, and you have
Boots on the side of the road.
booths at the side of the road where you could buy raw milk. So you could pay your $5 or how much it is, put it in, ching, pull it out, and you have a jug of raw milk going down the road. They have a better idea of food. You follow me? So So we said that the ginger warms the interior and promotes menstruation. So people with little or no menstruation, with constant cramps and dull red clots could use it. It is not for people who have too much menstruation, right? So, so it's good for impotence from coal or kidney yang deficiency. So you could use it, and when you drink it, it could warm your whole insides and step up your energy level. Right? Reduces infections, so it's good for bacterial and viral infections, tonsillitis, laryngitis, sore throat, food poisoning from herbs or food. So we know that. Right? One of the things that I found really, really interesting is tamarind. Aha. As we say, tamran.
Tambran. Tell me about it.
Tambran is
Tambran.
is a thing that has a lot of medicinal properties, right? One of the main properties, it promotes bowel movement, purges accumulation and clears heat, moistens the intestines, reduces fever and relieves thirst. So it is good for constipation, abdominal distension, thirst, constipation with dryness in any condition. So anytime you have a person and they have hard stools, constipation, what you do is you take some tamarind and you make a little concoction and you give them to drink, right? It's also good for relieving fevers. So it clears damp heat, so it's good for people that have damp heat, where they have loose stools, mucousy stools, urgent bowel movements. So food poisoning, So it clears damp heat, reduces infection and inflammation. So it is good for inflammation for the intestines, the kidneys, the liver, the gallbladder, with damp heat or heat. It stops urogenital discharges, so it's good for discharges in venereal infections, for yeast infections too, premature ejaculations and seminal discharges. So all the fellas outside there who have premature ejaculation, they're now going to buy tamarind by the bag. Tamarind ball has too much sugar. Not enough tamarind.
Not enough tamarind.
So tamarind, a demulcent and laxative effect, addresses dry intestinal conditions with constipation. The stool is softened and bowel movement follows. If the general condition is a hot one, you have heat, the tamarind will tend to promote cooling and relieve thirst. Tamarind fruits purge moderately and temperately. This was noted by London's apothecary John Quincy back in 1736, and are gentler than all other laxatives in this class. So in 1736, tamarind was known as a laxative in London. Today we have it in the yard, and when we have constipation with dry stools, we go to the pharmacy and buy paraffin oil or some kind of thing that sometimes don't work, and you have the cure right in the yard and you don't know. That is really the contention, is that we become so stupid.
So how you prepared?
You just take it and wash off the outside of the seed in a little water, and then you use it.
Okay.
No kind of fancy things. No. Second, tamarind cooling, lenitive, and slightly astringent effects addresses intestinal heat conditions. Fluid discharges are also reduced in the process. Here the fruit sourness acts in a similar way to Schisandra and Cornus in Chinese medicine. Note tamarind's high content in fruit acid, tartaric acid in particular. It is possible that this cooling restrictive effect extends to restraining other discharges and secretions, such as abnormal sweating, urinary incontinence, leukorrhea, and spermatoria.
Wow.
See? So you have all these nice things about it, and we really don't have much access to it at all. Let us go a little bit further and choose a really nice one. Bee pollen.
Bee pollen.
Bee pollen.
Is that one?
Little yellow pearls you just buy.
Yeah.
When the bees in the hive,
Mm-hmm.
then the bee pollen comes, they just kind of take it off when they get in here. So have a little pile of bee pollen.
Okay.
All right.
Bee pollen.
You put that
I
pollen
know,
trap.
I know catch it.
Right.
Bee pollen.
Yes.
is-
So it nourishes the blood and essence. But what you have is the essence of the flowers, all the flowers in the neighborhood.
Right. Okay.
Right. Now, the thing about bee pollen is that can vary from hive to hive according to the type of flowers that you have. If you have a hive in an orange field, you'll get a nice light orange color thing
Yes.
with a distinct citrus flavor and smell and taste to it. If you have you notice when you're buying honey in Trinidad, you can always tell the honey that is out in the open and the honey where they've taken it from the forest.
The forest.
How you can tell that?
Mm-hmm.
Color.
It's dark.
Which one will be dark?
The one from the forest.
For the forest.
Yeah, with all the
take
varied
up-
different flowers that it have in the forest.
Okay.
So what you get is a heavy, powerful honey
Honey. Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
that will have all kinds of nutritive effects, and it will also have, healing effects. to it.
Effects. Yeah.
So, one of the nice things about honey, it's good for metabolic disorders, including anemia, which would make sense. Because in anemia, what you're looking for all the nutrients.
Mhm.
What does a flower do? A flower collects all the nutrients into the flowers in order to make good seed.
Yes.
The bee comes along and picks it up and goes with it.
Go with it.
So it will deal with metabolic, the anemia, weight loss, anabolic deficiencies. The other thing is it will also have trace minerals. It will have trace minerals from all over, because you have flowers all over the place, and everyone will have. If you don't have trace minerals here for that, you have it across there.
Yes.
So it good. It's good for the endocrine and the hormonal, the system deficiencies, the pituitary and the gonads in general. So it should help you to be a little bit stronger. Premature aging, senile degeneration, poor cell regeneration, debility from any cause. So it restores the brain, the nerve, the heart, strengthening the mind, balances the circulation, and promotes rest. So it's good for both hypotension and hypertension. Because of the amount of various chemicals you have in it, you get this wide range of healing.
Yes.
Good for cerebral deficiency, from excessive work, stress, aging, amnesia, senile dementia. Why? Because you have all these various nutrients in microform inside it. Okay. It tonifies the bladder, harmonizes urination, relieves irritation, tonifies reproductive chi, and relieves impotence and frigidity, increases the hormones. It is good for prostate enlargement. Well, even in prostate medicine, you always notice that they have bee pollen included,
Yes.
because it helps to reduce that.
That.
Again, if you look at the history of prostate enlargement, which has to do with the amount of pesticides and herbicides and the formation of aromatase that causes the testosterone to change into dihydrotestosterone, it follows that if you're doing bee pollen, that it will tend to have a negative effect on that, because it will tend to want to pull it back with all the nutrients that they have. So here you say it is good for prostate enlargement with urgent, frequent, painful urination and rectal fullness. When the prostate gets really enlarged, you begin to feel
Yes,
that whole
that
lower area heavy.
Heavy.
Right? Good for dysmenorrhea, sexual disinterest, frigidity, impotence. So it brings back up the energy. Impotence and frigidity, estrogen and testosterone deficiency. Because you have so much nutrients in it, the body will take what it wants to do it. Promotes urination, resolves toxicosis, promotes weight loss, dissolves deposits, chelates heavy metals, and reduces tumors. Right? Again, the amount of stuff that you have in it and what it does. Metabolic and heavy metal disorders. So it's good for chronic rheumatic, arthritic, or skin conditions and heavy metal poisoning. If you have mercury poisoning or any one of the heavy metals.
Heavy
you know.
metal, yes.
It's good for being overweight, water retention, tumors, either benign or cancerous. Tonifies the digestive chi, promotes absorption and weight gain, resolves dysbiosis in the digestive system, and regulates bowel movement. So it's good for flatulence, indigestion, irregular bowel movements. It's good for intestinal dysbiosis and fermentation, anything to cause bloating and all that kind of stuff. It opens the chest, relieves wheezing, soothes the throat, and opens the voice. So it's good for asthmatic breathing in all conditions. Sore throat, voice loss, itchy throat, hoarseness. Stimulates immunity and reduces infection, inflammation, and allergies. Bacterial infections, urogenital, digestive, respiratory. Good for prostatitis, cystitis, enteritis, laryngitis. Good for boils, sores, abscesses, and fever. Good for fetid breath, thirst, cold drinks, that's when you have stomach fire. So it's good for peptic ulcers, skin ulcers, burns, wounds, and allergies in general. Right? So that's bee pollen. It's a magic food.
A magic.
Yes, very, very much so. So if we run along with that, we could go along and look at our magic little herb in the garden, 167. You could throw a note in here because I rather suspect that you will have an idea about this. Our good friend Vervine.
Oh! Oh boy. Vervine.
Cools the exterior, promotes sweating, dispels wind heat, reduces fever, and relieves coughing. You know all that?
Mm-hmm.
You know that? So we're running on the same wavelength. So it's good for cold and flu onset with fever.
Yes.
I know that from small. They run
small,
outside
yes.
and they pick that
Pick
up
that
and give it to you.
and boil
Intermittent
Vervine
fever, right? Even good for malarial fever. Relaxes constraint, regulates the chi and relieves pain, restores the nerves, lifts the mind, and relieves depression. So now you know why big people always drinking it.
Yes.
It's nice when you have a yard with all that. You get up in the morning and you say, you know what? I ain't drinking no green tea or no Ovaltine or no Milo or that. I'm going and have some Vervine. Or sometimes you have Vervine with Malomane.
Yes.
You ever drink that mix up?
No. I use it have the Malomane. It have two, male and female.
Yeah.
Right. The male is for your prostate. The female is for your heart.
The male one is the big one.
Yes, the one that stand up.
Yeah.
Right? And the female flat on the ground and spread out like
Anytime
that.
you have anything male, it has to stand up.
Yes. So, and it's good for your heart, the female
Yes.
for your heart.
Yes.
Right. Also, when you break it, it push a milk.
Yes.
Right?
Milk.
As that milk, both of them push the milk. And you see this water?
Yes.
You're just rubbing this
Yes.
a week time rubbing
put
that
a
day.
a little bit on it every
You
day.
melt it.
Just drop it off.
You drop it off.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that milk. Yeah.
So it says here, and you could tell from that, so it relaxes constraints and it's good for headaches, it's good for depression, chronic stress and disease, it's good for dizziness, tinnitus, headache, fatigue, right? It also, you can use it for migraines and headache.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, that you have so many people that have dizziness and they have they have Vervine in the yard, and don't know that they could drink that.
They could drink that
to help relieve the dizziness.
and help relieve.
Right? Good for asthmatic breathing, a tight chest. It's also good for spasmodic dysmenorrhea, painful irregular menstruation. And then you come to the urination. It resolves toxicosis, dissolves stones, and benefits the skin and vision. So it's good for uric acid, diathesis, gout, rheumatic conditions. It's good for urinary stones, nephritis, edema. Right? Now edema from the kidneys means that your ankles could swell up. And you could relieve that by drinking some Vervine. Promotes menstruation and labor and promotes lactation. Delayed or stopped periods, fatigue, amenorrhea, threatened miscarriage, failure to progress during labor. So you could give it to somebody who in labor to keep regularize the labor.
The labor.
Right?
Does it promote lactation too as well?
Yes. Yes. Promotes lactation. Stimulates immunity, antidotes poisons, eliminate parasites, promotes tissue repair, and reduces inflammation and swelling. So it's good for poisonous insect bites, parasites, and the parasites are filariasis, schistosomiasis, malaria, etc. Mouth and genital ulcers, sprains, injuries, contusions with redness and swelling. So you wouldn't think that little plant in the yard have all that stuff that it is good for. You could go and do the nettle. You see, stinging nettle, right?
Which
When you were small, you used to make nettle tea.
the-
Where you go and pick the leaf and make nettle tea.
no.
You know, make nettle tea.
Just have it and harassing people, just pass it on them. But as you talking, this the nettle,
Stinging nettle. Right.
but it have the one, the vine.
No, that's cowitch. We used to call that cowitch.
No, not that. The vine.
Yeah.
That vine. It's a therapy.
I know.
You know.
You want me to tell you what I used it for once?
Mm.
I used to go to primary school, and they had this guy in the school. He was the bully, and he used to have a whole big side with him, and he lived higher up the road from me. I'd come up the road, and he would beat me up, and I would go up and I would talk to his mother, and she'd say, "Boys will be boys."
Okay.
I got afraid of that guy because at my age, you know, just going into fifth standard, and he big, can't fight. So I keep talking and nobody taking me on. So coming up from San Fernando Government School, come down Rushford Street, and we're going up the train line to get home. And when I bend in the train line, I see him and he says, "Sign up there." He said, "We're waiting on you. We're going to beat you up today." We decided to samp at you and send you home. So I told him I go back down. He said, "Go where you want. You know, if we see you going to the bypass, we will follow you. If you go across into the drain, we'll follow you." So as I do so and I pass in, I see a pile of, we used to call it cowitch.
Cowitch.
And you know it doesn't scratch you in the center of your hand.
No.
So I pick it and I roll it up inside there. I close the hand. So I start walking up there and he says, "Oh, you're brave today. You're brave to get licks." So as I get close to him, I say, "Today you're not beating me up, you know." He said, "Oh, good," and you gave me chat. And he do so, bam, and he hold me and he pick me up. And as he picked me up, I went,
Yes, man.
in the face.
In the face.
Eyes closed, instantly. You can't see. Start to scream. So they had to lead him up the road.
Yes.
So my mother always used to be very strict. So the mother come down in a rage, boy. And she knocked on my mother's house and she come out and she start complaining. And my mother looked at her and she says, "Well, boys will be boys."
Oh, gosh.
He never touched me after that.
Good.
So that is my escapade with cowitch.
Yes, that,
Or as we say, stinging nettle.
Stinging nettle.
Wherever it's stinging nettle, bhaji, where you cut it and cut it up and make bhaji with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, you are pretend country, no?
I never had that.
It's the vine is called it zuti.
Yes.
Zuti.
Zuti. That is another name for it.
Yeah, zuti. And it's a very good therapy. In Mexico, they give you the therapy with that. And my sister,
Therapy for what?
well, the whole body. But here, what my sister go to Mexico, leave America, and go Mexico and take that therapy. But here, they have to, the doctor have to check your force before you could take it. And they have it soaking in a basin of water. They have it in the water.
Well, listen here. It nourishes the liver and blood, relieves fatigue, regulates metabolism and strengthens the connective tissue, restores the gonads. You know what it means by
What- what
restores
that?
the gonads.
Okay.
Da-da, da-da, da-da. Adrenals and thyroid, promotes lactation and benefits the hair. Right? So it's good for hepatic and metabolic disorders, that's the liver, right? Glycogen storage disorders, rickets, diabetes, so it's good for diabetes too, right? Chronic and degenerative disorders in general. Connective tissue degeneration, when tissue that in the body connect up all the muscles and things. Insufficient lactation, so it's good for lactation. It's good for blood deficiency, weakness, exhaustion, pale, yellow complexion, pale, dizziness, pale complexion, stop periods, anemia, and amenorrhea. You know, what is interesting is that anytime anybody has anemia in this town and you go to the doctor, 90% of the time what he does is he writes a prescription for iron pills. Now, one of the things that I've noticed about that is that a lot of young women are suffering from fungus, yeast problems. And there's a bacteria called the Clostridium bacteria, which tends to be pals with the yeast. So anytime you find the yeast, you just find the Clostridium. And the Clostridium, while the yeast eating up all the sugar, the Clostridium just eat up all the iron. So if you have a person and they tend to have yeast, and you'll know if they have yeast because they'll have cysts and probably fibroids, right? And so they go to the doctor and the doctor say, I have anemia. So he gives them something for the yeast, and then he gives them iron, not understanding that the Clostridium in the intestine is going to eat up the iron, and it is going to be of no use, right? So she comes back, or sometimes she goes to the specialist, and what does the specialist give her? More iron. So he doesn't even ask sometimes what the other doctor gave him. Okay? So she comes to the alternative doctor now, and she's taking 3 sets of iron, and she's constipated, and she still have the anemia. Because the problem is the yeast with the Clostridium difficile.